No one saw it coming. The night began like any other, cameras flashing, fans celebrating, and Demet Özdemir smiling brightly as she left a studio event in Istanbul. But within minutes, that calm turned into chaos. According to eyewitnesses, a car coming from the opposite lane suddenly lost control, skidding across the wet road. Demet's car was hit hard from the side. The crash sound echoed through the quiet street, followed by screams and flashing lights. When the news reached social media, panic spread instantly. Hashtags like #PrayForDemet and #StayStrongDemet began trending within minutes. But what no one expected was what happened next. Yaman himself, thousands of kilometers away in Italy, reportedly dropped everything and rushed to her side the moment he heard about the accident. Friends close to the actor confirmed that Ken was in the middle of a meeting for an upcoming series when he got the call. "He froze," said one insider. "He just said, 'I have to go,' and walked out. He didn't wait for details. He didn't care about flights or schedules." Within hours, he was seen boarding a private jet bound for Istanbul. The emotional weight of that moment was indescribable. This was the man who had once shared unforgettable years with Demet, not just on screen, but off it too. Their story was written in silence, in glances, in the way they used to look at each other even when cameras stopped rolling. And now, fate had brought him back to her, not through love, but through fear. When Ken landed in Istanbul, he avoided the press completely. There were no statements, no dramatic entrances, just a man rushing through hospital corridors, wearing a simple black hoodie and a look of quiet desperation. He didn't want anyone to see him, a nurse later revealed. But the moment he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. Demet was conscious but weak, resting in a private hospital room. The doctors said she was lucky. Minor injuries, a few bruises, and a small fracture on her wrist. But emotionally, the shock was heavy. She had been alone in the car, returning home after a long day, exhausted. The crash came out of nowhere. And then, just as she tried to process what had happened, she saw him, Ken, standing at the door. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The air in the room changed. Memories, emotions, unspoken words, all of it came rushing back. He slowly approached her bed and simply said, "You scared me." She smiled faintly and whispered, "I didn't mean to." That single moment broke millions of hearts online once it leaked. A hospital staff member later described it as something out of a movie. Fans who had followed their journey from Erkenci Kuş to real life couldn't believe it. The man who once tried to distance himself completely had returned in her most fragile moment. Friends close to Demet say she was deeply moved by his gesture. "She didn't expect him to come," said one of her assistants. They hadn't spoken in a long time. But the moment she saw him, she felt safe again. It was like time stopped. Meanwhile, the media exploded. Italian and Turkish outlets ran the story side by side. Yaman flies to Istanbul for Demet after accident. Photos of Ken leaving the hospital late at night flooded social media. Fans noticed his red eyes, the fatigue, the quiet sadness on his face. It wasn't the image of a celebrity, it was the image of a man whose heart still remembered. Sources revealed that Ken stayed in Istanbul for 2 days, avoiding all cameras. He reportedly refused to leave until Demet was stable. He kept asking the doctors if she was really okay, one insider said. He sat in the waiting area for hours, not caring about the attention outside. When Demet was discharged, Ken helped her get to her family home, making sure she was comfortable. He stayed only a short while, said goodbye politely, and left. But according to people who saw them together, there was something different this time, a kind of peace between them that hadn't been there before. He looked at her not as someone from his past, one observer said, but as someone he still truly cared for. After his return to Italy, fans noticed subtle changes in Ken's social media. He didn't post anything about the accident, but his silence spoke louder than words. A black and white photo of a city skyline appeared on his story with the caption, "Some things never fade." Within minutes, fans flooded the comments, everyone knew what it meant. Demet, too, remained silent publicly. But her close friends hinted that she was deeply touched. When you go through something that scary, one said, you realize who truly cares. And Can's actions spoke louder than 1,000 words. Behind all the media noise, something human was happening. Two people who had shared love, pain, and distance were reminded of what truly matters. Not fame, not pride, not past mistakes, but presence. Being there when it counts. Fans across the world started writing emotional messages. This is real love. You don't need words. He ran to her side, that says everything. Some bonds never break, no matter how much time passes. And yet, neither Can nor Demet confirmed or denied anything. They let the story breathe on its own. That mystery only made the moment more powerful. In private circles, people close to them say the accident changed something in both of them. Can realized how fragile life is, said a mutual friend. He told someone, I thought I had moved on, but hearing her name in that context broke me. Demet, on the other hand, reportedly said, it's strange, sometimes you only remember who truly matters when life reminds you how easily you can lose them. The emotional shock of the accident slowly turned into gratitude. She thanked her fans for their love, but those who knew her could tell that something had shifted inside her. The sparkle in her eyes was softer, more reflective. Maybe it was the near-death experience, or maybe it was the realization that even after all the silence, someone still cared deeply. The world keeps speculating, was this the start of a new chapter or just a moment of compassion? Nobody knows for sure. But one thing is undeniable, when everything fell apart, Yaman was there. It wasn't about fame or attention. It wasn't a headline move. It was instinct, the kind of instinct that comes from love that once burned bright. He didn't ask for forgiveness, and she didn't ask for explanations. They didn't need them. The silence between them spoke 1,000 words. For fans who have followed their intertwined journeys for years, it felt like fate's gentle reminder that some connections, no matter how buried, are never truly gone. As days passed, Demet began to recover physically, but emotionally, she was still processing everything. Friends say she started writing again, journaling about life, gratitude, and people who show up when it matters most. One night, she posted a single sentence on her story, the ones who arrive when you fall, they're the real ones. That same night, Ken liked the post. He didn't comment. He didn't repost it. But that small interaction was enough to send fans into a frenzy. The connection was still there, quiet, invisible, but undeniably real. In the weeks that followed, tabloids tried to chase the story. Were they seeing each other again? Was something rekindled? But both stayed silent. And that silence itself became the most beautiful answer. Because sometimes, love doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need words, headlines, or interviews. It shows itself in the moments when everything falls apart. When someone runs to your side without hesitation, when care replaces pride, when the past doesn't matter because the heart still remembers. And on that terrifying night, when Demet Özdemir needed someone most, Yaman didn't think twice. He came back. Maybe that's what true love really means, not perfection, not fairy tales, but showing up when it matters, even after the story was supposed to be over.